This is the thing that I'm actually the most worried about for modern fighting games. And I was really worried about this during Dragon Ball, by the way. Really worried about it. So this is the tendency for modern fighting games to be balanced around minus frames. So I have Exert on because it's not like this. So Exert at a glance, cancel windows are all really small. They're tied to active frames off the top of my head. So the frame advantage and stuff is just more. So like for example, Million's 2P off the top of my head, I think it's like +2. Lost Shaker in this game is actually +7. This is +1, just like Stride, but the move is faster. There are some characters like Slayer's Far Slash is like +7. I want to say Soul's 2S is +1. A lot of characters have stuff that are plus, but they have to because the cancel windows aren't very big. Where in Strive, basically everything is minus. Like the assumption should be basically that everything's minus. But to compensate, the cancel windows on everything is huge. These things have implications to how the games are played, how you're feeling while you're playing, and of course, the thing that everyone hates to hear, new players. new players. When you have a game that's based on plus frames, you can have a tool that's strong and it's easy to establish yourself because you just fucking have the advantage. So for example, like this is +2. So this is the classic million frame trap from this version. You might notice it might look similar to a frame trap you've seen in Strive. I just can never match this. And because I can't match this, I could do like, so because of this, I could do all sorts of stuff where I don't want to mash immediately, so I have to delay mash, but now I get smoked by the delay S disc. There's all this stuff that comes from just the jab being plus. Feels good, man. Feels good. Again, like I said at the beginning, the game has to be like this because this game doesn't have large cancel windows, and in general, games that have a lot of stuff that are plus, outside like crazy shit, they generally either don't have large cancel windows or you can't cancel moves into each other. So like let's say like SF4 for example, you know, everything's links. Or like Vampire Savior, it has Magic series, but that game has a lot of stuff that's plus. Another nice thing about it is that like the person who's playing feels stronger. They know the stuff they're doing can't be challenged so easily. So like you feel strong, like by default. It's a good feeling, actually. It's quite a good feeling. They know their opponent has to take a big risk when they do the standard stuff that they use to establish themselves. Or like for example, like this is +7. I get pushed out kind of far, but like my opponent can't punish me in any context when I do this. I'm fucking +7. If they FD it, I'm +9. I'm mad far, but I'm +9. If they IB it, I'm fucking +5. Like they just can't do anything about it. Now this next thing, you can kind of argue both sides on this. When a game's balanced around plus frames, it's actually easier for new people a little bit because when you're teaching someone that's new, right, you can be like, oh, Milia's 2P is +2, so if you do this, then you can do 2P 6H, you can do 2P 2P. There's like a bunch of stuff you can do because this is plus. Then they're like, oh, okay, they're like, oh, how do I stop mashing? This is how you stop mashing, right? This shit is plus. On the other hand, it's harder for them because let's say you're new and you're just playing against somebody who's like, they just started but like a week before you, and you do this or you do this, and you know you guys are both mashing. The person who's new has no idea why their shit is not working, basically, which I think is actually what the main things that devs are trying to avoid. They don't want this feeling of like, hey, nothing I'm doing is working, I can't play. Okay, let's switch to Strive real quick. So as opposed to games balanced around minus frames, like this game, Dragon Ball, as a player, you feel like way more things are risks because you understand that everything's intrinsically unsafe, which is not the best feeling in the world. You definitely learn to work your way around it in the game because another thing about modern fighting games is that because they're just like, they just look better. Like look at Strive, we were just on Exert, look at Strive. Like this game looks a lot more crisp and stuff. Everything's like longer total duration. Some things have like a longer startup. Something that's -5 in Exert is easily punished, where something that's -5 in Strive is basically safe, even though it's like -5. Or for my Dragon Ball people, -5 is just safe straight up. On block, to be fair. Another nice thing is the things that they give you to compensate, to make you feel safer. The main things are that jump cancels if they're there. So one thing that was really hard for me in Dragon Ball is nothing is fucking jump cancelable. For Dragon Ball, you're counting on your assist to protect you, to make you like feel better. Now, for the new player though, the opponent doesn't necessarily need to know data to respond to what you do. This is mixed feelings for sure for people, right? So in a game where everything's balanced around plus frames, you need to know that like this is plus, or you need to know that this is +7 or whatever it is. When everything is minus and you're new, you can mash it out and it will probably work when it's among you and your friends, and you're not going to be worried about like, why is my stuff not working so much? That's not going to be like your thought. Depending on the game, again, you're gonna have like a mixed feeling, because when you're on offense, you're gonna have this feeling of like, oh, like all my stuff is like fake or like not safe, or like I have to overextend in order to get stuff. So I understand that I'm taking a huge risk every time I do this, right? A simple example is like, so like, or, okay, so this has a 9 frame gap normally. 5H, attack level 4, 18 frame block stun. Lust Shaker 27 frames currently, so it has 9 frame gap, right? And then Mirage similarly is 9 frame gap, but there's no like attack. So these moves animate kinda similarly. I shouldn't even say you can mix. This is an example of like one of the things that make me feel bad about the games having generally minus stuff. I say mix, but I can't say mix. Like this is not a 2 selection. And what I mean is like you can't do 5H and be like, hey opponent, am I going to do roll or am I going to do Lust Shaker? The roll is a big risk. If they let you do this roll and you get throw, then you get throw offense, whatever you like to do. If they let you do like this, then you get to go into good pressure because you get close slash. But if you do close slash, the gap is even bigger, by the way, just keep that in mind. If you get this, right, they are like delay mashing, trying to catch your Mirage, and you get a knockdown that's, you get some meter, a little bit of damage. If they block it, you're safe. And then you have your slightly safer but also disadvantageous delay Estus, where generally at this range you're like -6-ish or so. It kind of varies on distance. This is something you have to cycle, but it's not mixed. It's not like you're doing a 50-50, like a strong 50-50, or even like a strong like pressure sequence. This is a thing where you pick something that's generally safe to do a bunch, that is around the same timing, and then occasionally you hope that you've enforced this thing enough that you can sneak in something that is higher return but much more punishable. And you just need the cojones to just fucking do it. Where in a game with plus frames, while you have to overextend sometimes to get stuff, being on the side that's doing it doesn't feel as bad because you have advantage with the stuff you're setting up. I said a lot. Does that make sense? I said a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. This does have merits overall, doing it this way. So one, is easier for new people because new people are mashing. So they're not going to have the thing of, I'm pressing buttons and things aren't working. This is fucking annoying. Why is my stuff not working? Since everything's minus, when they're playing with people with similar skill level, the stuff's going to come out. That's fine. 2, it helps as like a preventative measure. It makes it harder by default to create situations outside of the developer's intentions that are really, really hard to deal with. Because everything's minus by default. They don't have to worry about like some type of sequence or some type of thing. Like, or if that thing is in the game, it will probably take longer at least. Where in a game that's balanced around plus frames, people will find shit really fucking fast. That will be like, just by the nature of like, oh, this is plus, so this is plus, and I could do this. People will go that logic. Where generally in games where everything is minus, people will start from the thoughts of, this is unsafe, this doesn't work, this is unsafe. And you see this actually from Exert to Strive, how like, compare, let's say like even for Milia, like compared to some people who might have played Exert, Milia, but they didn't play other fighting games, like newer fighting games, and then they play Strive. They might have just looked at this version of Milia and be like, yo, she doesn't have shit. Like, everything is minus, everything's slow, nothing's safe. Like, because I have recognized this trend from other games, I didn't hop on that so quickly because I understood delay cancels are a thing. I understood, like, the distance you're pushed away and everything is slower. So, like, some minus frames don't mean it's going to be punishable and things like that. For people who are Legacy Guilty Gear players, this is definitely one of the reasons they don't feel good coming in the game, because of the thing I talked about of how the player literally feels when they feel like everything is fucking unsafe. It's something that's really hard to like overcome. BlazBlue, as a side note, when BB came out, it's kind of like the middle, where like usually a character has like a couple of things that's plus, but then like they have like the delay cancels and shit, so like you could enforce yourself really well. If you literally go from Exert to Strive, it's a huge jump. And if you go from Strive to Exert the opposite way, and your character's in that game, you will literally feel more powerful because your character will just have a bunch of shit that's plus. When you do it, your opponent, they definitely can't take a dumb risk. They need a specific response by default, where when everything's minus, like some people will just be mashing it, they don't care. Mash is fine, especially if they haven't played against somebody that makes them feel the impact of that choice. If you're not comfortable taking risks, or you've played games that you're always at like a high advantage and stuff, it's gonna feel really hard to move to a game that where everything is minus like this. Strive gives me a decent hope though, because like characters have stuff that is plus and there's jump cancel stuff, so it's fine. Where like Dragon Ball, I was like, man, like especially like when the game came out, I was like, if you're not playing like Go tanks or you don't have like high blocks on assists, what the fuck do you do? Like you just have to pray. Basically, you have to pray that they don't do anything, and if you're wrong, they fucking do 50% of your life and they knock you down. Because they get combos for mashing. They get full combo for mashing. So it's tough. I don't like this tendency in new fighting games, but I know why they do it. I'm probably missing a couple points from the dev side that they're thinking too. These are just things that I've thought about. This wasn't actually that long. I'm glad I got my thoughts together about it beforehand. Any questions about that?